Who founded the very first dynasty in Chinese history? For most people in China, the answer seems obvious: the Xia Dynasty. From school textbooks to records of the grand historian, Xia has long been presented as the beginning of China's dynastic civilization. It is closely linked to the legendary Yu the Great and is traditionally regarded as the dynasty that laid the foundation for thousands of years of imperial rule. Yet modern archaeology has introduced an unexpected question: if the Xia dynasty truly existed, why has no oracle bone inscription ever been found that clearly mentions the word Xia? Why has no bronze inscription identified a Xia king? And why has no contemporary written record been discovered that can directly confirm the dynasty itself? The contrast with the Shang dynasty is striking. In the early 20th century, the discovery of oracle bones at Erlitou in Anyang transformed the study of early Chinese history. These inscriptions recorded the names of Shang kings, royal rituals, wars, and state affairs. Many of those names matched the royal lineage preserved in ancient historical texts, providing direct evidence that the Shang dynasty had indeed existed. The Xia dynasty, however, remains different. Ancient books describe it in considerable detail. Later dynasties accepted it as part of their own historical tradition. Archaeological discoveries increasingly appear to fit the period traditionally associated with Xia. Yet the single piece of evidence that could decisively connect those discoveries to the dynasty has never been found. For more than a century, historians and archaeologists have continued to ask the same question. Was the Xia dynasty truly China's first dynasty? Or is it a historical tradition preserved through centuries of memory and later writings? To explore that question, we must look beyond the ancient texts and into the archaeological record itself. Because the answer may not lie in a single document, but in countless fragments of evidence still waiting beneath the ground. Everything most people know about the Xia dynasty comes not from excavated artifacts, but from ancient texts that have been passed down for thousands of years. Classical works such as the Book of Documents, the Zhuixuan, the Discourses of the States, the Bamboo Annals, and the records of the Grand Historian all contain accounts of the Xia. Among the best known is the story of Yu the Great, who is said to have controlled the devastating floods, earned the support of the people, and established what later generations regarded as China's first dynasty. His son Qi is traditionally believed to have transformed the system of succession from selecting worthy rulers to hereditary kingship, marking a turning point in early Chinese political history. Taken together, these texts present what appears to be a remarkably complete historical narrative. They describe the founding of the dynasty, the succession of its kings, the movement of its capitals, and major political events. Sima Qian even devoted an entire chapter, The Basic Annals of Xia, to reconstructing the dynasty's history. Yet from the perspective of modern historical research, written tradition alone cannot establish historical fact. The challenge is that all of these works were compiled many centuries after the period they describe. Records of the Grand Historian was completed during the Western Han Dynasty, more than 1,000 years after the traditionally accepted dates of Xia. Even the earliest surviving texts preserve information that had already passed through generations of transmission, interpretation, and editing. There is another difficulty as well. Different historical sources do not always agree. Their accounts sometimes differ on chronology, royal succession, and even important events. For that reason, historians regard these ancient texts as indispensable sources of information, but not as conclusive proof that the Xia dynasty existed. To move beyond tradition, another kind of evidence is required. That evidence would have to come from archaeology. Before the 20th century, the study of early Chinese history relied almost entirely on ancient written records. That changed with the rise of modern archaeology. As forgotten cities, tombs, and artifacts emerged from beneath the ground, historians gained a new way to compare physical evidence with traditional accounts. The greatest breakthrough came with the Shang dynasty. Beginning in 1928, excavations at Erlitou in Anyang uncovered the remains of a royal capital along with more than 100,000 oracle bones. These inscriptions, carved over 3,000 years ago, recorded royal sacrifices, military campaigns, agriculture, astronomical observations, and the names of Shang kings. Many of those names closely matched the royal lineage described in the records of the Grand Historian. For the first time, an early Chinese dynasty could be confirmed through both archaeology and contemporary written evidence. That success naturally led to a new question. if the Xia dynasty could also be found beneath the soil, what evidence would archaeologists need to prove its existence? Searching for Xia soon became one of the most important long-term goals of Chinese archaeology. Researchers focused on the middle reaches of the Yellow River, a region traditionally associated with the Xia people and one of the most active cultural centers of late Neolithic China. They were not searching for a single ancient city. They were looking for evidence of an early state, large palace complexes, carefully planned urban layouts, specialized craft workshops, ceremonial architecture, and clear signs of social hierarchy. Only when these elements appeared together could archaeologists argue that a true early kingdom had emerged. Among all the discoveries that followed, one site soon became the center of the entire debate. In 1959, archaeologists began the first systematic excavations at the Erlitou site in Yanchi, Hunan province. Over decades of research, the remains of a large urban center dating back about 3,800 years gradually came to light. Excavations revealed extensive palace foundations, carefully planned road networks, bronze foundries, turquoise workshops, and cemeteries that reflected clear social hierarchy. Together, these discoveries showed that a highly organized society, with sophisticated political authority, specialized industries, and complex administration, had already emerged in central China. Even more significant was the site's age. The Erlitou culture dates to the period between the late Longshan culture and the early Shang dynasty, closely matching the traditional timeframe that many historical sources associate with the late Xia dynasty. Because of this remarkable overlap, many Chinese archaeologists believe Erlitou may have been an important capital of the Xia dynasty. Some researchers have even suggested that it could correspond to Zhenshuan, one of the capitals mentioned in ancient texts, yet one critical problem remains. Despite decades of excavation, no inscription has ever been discovered at Erlitou that explicitly mentions the word Xia, nor has any artifact identified a Xia king or clearly linked the site to the dynasty described in historical records. In other words, archaeologists have uncovered a large and sophisticated political center whose age, scale, and level of development closely match what ancient texts describe. But the final piece of evidence, the one that would directly connect Erlitou to the Xia dynasty, has yet to appear. For that reason, Erlitou stands at the heart of the entire debate. It has brought historians closer than ever to answering one of China's oldest historical questions, while still leaving the most important conclusion just beyond reach. Research on the Xia dynasty does not rest on Erlitou alone. Over the past several decades, archaeologists have uncovered a series of important sites across the middle reaches of the Yellow River, many dating to around 4,000 years ago. Together, these discoveries provide a broader picture of how one of China's earliest state-level societies may have emerged. Among the most significant is the Taosi site in Xiangfen, Shaanxi province. Excavations have revealed a large walled settlement, palace foundations, elite tombs, ceremonial artifacts, and what is widely interpreted as an ancient astronomical observatory. These discoveries suggest the existence of a highly organized regional center during the late Longshan period. Another important site is Wangchenggang in Dengfeng, Hunan province. Archaeologists uncovered city walls, large architectural remains, and settlement features that attracted considerable attention. Some researchers have suggested that the site may be connected with traditions describing the capital established after Yu the Great controlled the floods. However, this interpretation remains a scholarly hypothesis rather than an established conclusion. Additional sites, including Xinzhai and Dashigu, have also helped archaeologists trace the transition from the late Longshan culture to the Erlitou culture. Together, they reveal growing settlements, increasing social specialization, expanding regional interaction, and the gradual concentration of political authority. None of these sites can independently prove the existence of the Xia dynasty. Taken together, however, they suggest that by around 4,000 years ago, the Central Plains had already witnessed the emergence of increasingly complex political societies. For many scholars today, the search for Xia is no longer about finding a single artifact that settles the debate. Instead, it is about assembling an ever-growing body of archaeological evidence that, piece by piece, brings the earliest chapters of Chinese civilization into clearer focus. While archaeology has continued to uncover new physical evidence, another major research effort set out to answer a more fundamental question: when exactly did these early societies exist? In 1996, China launched the Xia, Shang, Zhou chronology project, one of the country's largest interdisciplinary studies of ancient history. The project brought together specialists in archaeology, history, radiocarbon dating, astronomy, and other scientific fields. Its goal was to establish a more reliable chronological framework for the Xia, Shang, and Zhou periods by combining multiple lines of evidence. Researchers compared archaeological layers, radiocarbon dates, ancient astronomical records, and historical texts in an effort to reconstruct a consistent timeline. The project eventually proposed a comprehensive chronology, suggesting that the Xia dynasty began around 2070 BCE, while also attempting to correlate certain archaeological cultures with dynasties described in traditional historical records. The chronology project has had a profound influence on the study of early Chinese history and continues to serve as an important reference for archaeologists today. Even so, it did not end the debate. Some scholars argue that parts of the proposed timeline still depend on linking archaeological discoveries with later historical texts, and that those connections remain open to interpretation. As a result, the project is widely regarded as a significant scholarly achievement, but not as the final word on the question of the Xia dynasty. Anyone reading international research on early China will quickly notice an interesting pattern. Many scholars outside China refer to Erlitou simply as the Erlitou culture, rather than identifying it directly as the Xia dynasty. This is not because they reject the existence of early Chinese civilization. Instead, it reflects the evidentiary standards commonly used in modern archaeology. In international scholarship, linking an archaeological site to a specific historical dynasty usually requires direct evidence, such as contemporary written records, inscriptions naming rulers, or artifacts that clearly identify the political authority associated with the site. Although Erlitou contains all the hallmarks of an early state, including palace complexes, bronze production, urban planning, and a sophisticated social hierarchy, no inscription has yet been discovered that explicitly identifies the site as Xia or names any Xia ruler. For that reason, many researchers prefer to use the more neutral archaeological term Erlitou. Chinese scholars often approach the question somewhat differently. Rather than relying solely on direct inscriptions, many argue that archaeological evidence should also be considered alongside historical texts. When chronology, geography, and patterns of social development closely match traditional records, they believe a historical connection deserves serious consideration. Ultimately, the disagreement is not about whether ancient Chinese civilization existed, it is about how much evidence is required before archaeology and history can confidently identify a civilization by name. As new discoveries continue to emerge, that discussion remains very much alive. Today, there is still no single answer that every historian and archaeologist accepts regarding the existence of the Xia dynasty, yet compared with only a few decades ago, we are closer than ever before to understanding this pivotal chapter of early Chinese history. New archaeological sites continue to be excavated. Dating techniques have become increasingly precise. Step by step, the emergence of early state societies in the Central Plains is becoming clearer, and a picture that was once fragmented is gradually taking shape. Even so, the decisive piece of evidence has not yet been found. If future excavations uncover contemporary inscriptions that mention Xia kings, identify a Xia capital, or directly connect archaeological discoveries with historical records, the debate could change dramatically. It is equally possible that new discoveries will reshape our understanding of the ancient texts themselves, revealing a past more complex than historians once imagined. That is the nature of historical research. It does not stop searching simply because a tradition has been accepted for 2,000 years. Nor does it dismiss every possibility simply because definitive proof has not yet been uncovered. Perhaps the most important thing we know today is not the final answer itself, but the path that continues to lead us toward it. And with every new archaeological discovery, our understanding of the earliest history of Chinese civilization continues to evolve.